Okay, now that we finally got this going, this has been such a long time coming just to start on episode 2. But I'm guessing we can say welcome to episode 2 of this podcast. My name is Shahmi. I am a moderator in the Picturefit Discord. And my guest, or at least I'm the guest in this time, is Ani. You can introduce yourself, Ani.
Absolutely. Hello, people. You might know me indeed from the last podcast. I'm Annie or Entropy nowadays. Excuse my voice because I have some kind of a weird cold going on. It's not COVID. Got it tested. Um, I'm an administrator on the Picturefit Discord. And if we would get straight into qualifications, in my case, it would be that I'm a biochemist and an all-round nutrition nerd. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, for those of you who have never met them actually, you should count yourself lucky because usually if you're a normal member and come into contact with our admins, you're likely in trouble. But yes,
Sometimes we're nice. Sometimes.
yeah, most of the time. But yeah, our admins are very, very smart people. Although Paul isn't here at the moment, so instead we do have Annihilation, or as he said, nowadays he goes as Entropy. So we don't really have a clear topic for this sort of podcast. We just talk whatever. But seeing as it is Ramadan, I was thinking that maybe we could talk a bit about Ramadan fasting. What do you think, Ani?
I definitely think that's a great one. Reason why also is because nowadays, or at least when it comes to this period in the year, we get a lot of questions from people how fasting and Ramadan would affect their training, affect their life, how they can go about keeping up with their training, despite the fact that they don't have all the feeding opportunities that they would normally have. And these are legitimate worries that people have, but let's say first and foremost that it is not impossible to overcome the limitations that you might be experiencing because of such a period. It's a thing, especially in Ramadan. I mean, I'm not a Muslim myself, but I know many people that are in Ramadan right now, and I know that the values of Ramadan, for example, being together with people and knowing it is basically placing yourself in a position that is not within your regular comfort zone. I think that is quite a beautiful message, and it definitely is something that should be preserved, despite that some people find it difficult from time to time.
Oh, definitely. Honestly, it's so refreshing hearing a non-Muslim talk about Ramadan that way, because even on my side as a Muslim, at least from what we've been getting in the server, a lot of the times, and this is a shout out to all my fellow Muslim brothers, please, guys, it's Ramadan. Going into Ramadan with the worry of how do I preserve my muscles, bro, is the worst way you can approach this time. Muscles, whatever, man. It'll come, it'll go, and you can always gain it back after the whole month. Really, on this month, you should just focus on the values of what we learn as Muslims in Ramadan, are focusing on yourself and focusing on self betterment and self control, and also being grateful for what you have because you don't realize how good you have it until it's gone. And understanding that not being able to eat for pretty much the whole day is a reality that some people out there go through every day of their life because they have no other choice. It helps in developing your perspective of who you are and where you are in your life as a person and what you could do to help others and to empathize with others on something that they may not have because of their life situations. But regardless of that, when it comes to training, yes, you can actually train during Ramadan, whether it's after you break the fast or really, really early in the morning before the fasting starts, or if you're like me, you just train during the day, doing fasting like nothing changes. Whether or not you can do it is dependent on if you can actually cope with the fact that you have to train or go through an entire training session without any water at all. And depending if in the morning doing sahur, you actually get in some good meals. I know in the morning, early in the morning, myself included, we can get really lazy and kind of not in the mood to eat because you just woke up. So some of us would just wake up, drink a bit of water, and go back to sleep, or maybe have a few fruits here and there. But if you can, build some discipline and actually have a full proper meal with a lot of water before you go back to bed, just for that time doing sahur. It's possible, guys. You can build muscle and you can actually gain weight in Ramadan. Please stop worrying about your muscle building journey during this month. I beg of you.
Well, to
Anything?
be fair, if we can just stick with this, is what you're saying is that you have multiple feeding opportunities during the period that you can eat, right?
Yep.
So if you plan it correctly, you can have 2 meals. I know that there's people who voluntarily go with 1 meal a day and still manage to get great results. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of that, but that basically comes down to comfort. Um, it is way more comfortable to be able to spread your meals and be able to spread your total calorie intake over the entire day. It's from a comfort level towards what your stomach has to process. Um, but also, indeed, as you're saying, you got to wake up for it early to then have some food and then just go back to bed. Or in case you're, for example, working the early shift, then I suppose that it is a bit easier that way. However, it would definitely get to your sleep because you'll also have to wait until you can eat at the end of the day again, which might just be the time that you want to be in bed in case you're working an early shift. That's mostly a thing that I know of, at least in the European side of the world. I don't really know how the shift working things are taking shape in the rest of the world. But again,
Mm.
it is something that like way smarter guys than me, like the oh, what's his name again? Oh, how could I forget him? God, I'm even doing his program. He is, oh, he's great. Lane Norton, that's him. Yeah,
Ah, yeah,
okay.
they know.
Yeah, Lane Norton, that's him. I remember him saying that it doesn't really make all that much difference when you eat. It doesn't make that much difference. Of course, it makes a lot of difference what you eat because you got to get the right nutrition in order to be progressing. But the main thing is that you get your calories in that you need and that you get your protein in that you need, and of course the micros and everything else that is important. But that is the main thing. That is the basic staple of building muscle. And if you get that all in during 1 meal, or maybe spread over 1.5 meals or 2 meals, depending on the size, or you can spread it over like 6, if you're able to, which is of course not a possibility during Ramadan. It doesn't really make all that much difference. Is it a little bit less optimal to get it all in one go? Yeah, probably, because some things might just be fighting with one another because you, of course, can't get all the food in maybe in one go, in one sitting.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfectly understandable, really. But that doesn't mean that it is very, very suboptimal. Like, not at all. I mean, you're still getting your stuff in, you're getting close to your targets, you're still training, and you're still giving your body that stimulus to preserve the muscle mass that you've gained. Now, will you lose a little bit during that period? Maybe,
Very
definitely.
likely.
But on the other hand, can you gain a little bit during that period? Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. So it's all a matter of perspective, really. And to be fair, um, again, I understand the worries from people, but what I also want to stretch is that the biggest mistake that people make is trying to optimize everything they are doing.
Oh,
Honestly, that will
definitely.
not make you a lot happier in your life.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I understand again, and I respect the fact that people want to optimize everything, because that actually shows their dedication to what they are trying to do. It shows their dedication to their sports, to what they want to achieve for their physique, to their strength goals, and that's great. Don't get me wrong. On the other hand, you're still a human, and you still have a life, and that is just one life that you get. So, is it really worth it to put your life like entirely in service of this particular goal that you have? I mean, if you can and you're comfortable with it, more power to you. All the respect to you, absolutely. But I'm a guy, I can't do that. I
Having a
honestly
whole
can't
life
do
rotate
that.
around 3, 4 meals. What a nightmare.
Yeah. But yeah, it's um again, I think it's I actually kind of forgot the clue what I wanted to talk which direction I wanted to talk to, but yeah, optimizing everything isn't sustainable. I think that is what I wanted to say, because most of the people that we have in the community, they are not pro athletes. They might want to be at some point in life, but they're not right now. And most of them probably won't be. They're just recreational fitness enthusiasts, which is great,
Mm-mm.
without a doubt. But that means that it might just not be that interesting to try and optimize everything and gain those few bits of percentages of extra results. I mean, they will come eventually. Might take a few months later, a few months longer, but yeah, it's
Oh, absolutely. Like something, and maybe we are also a bit guilty of this when it comes to educational on the aspects of education for this part. But sure, in the server, we do recommend that you get 1.6 grams to 2.2 grams of protein per
yeah.
kilogram body weight. But the reality is, guys, you can totally make gains on like zero point 0.5 grams per pound body weight of protein. It's entirely possible. The data is there, and especially as a beginners, which fortunately in our server most people are beginners based on just their physique alone and their training and how long they've trained and their knowledge in regards to fitness. But you don't have to like have everything set on to waste to actually start making gains. Like for me personally, I started out with scraping the bottom of the barrel. I just ate whatever I could get my hands on in the kitchen and whatever my parents cooked, whatever piece of chicken that was extra left. And I just worked out in my room with just push-ups, lifting my bed for a solid excuse of a deadlift, and even trying to bench press my bed here and there just to get some pressing work. For bicep, I just picked up my bag, filled it with my books, with my high school books at the time, picked up my bag and did curls with it. You know the story. It's like just scrape the bottom of the barrel, but even then, the results weren't like the best. Like if I had a gym and if I knew everything about programming or whatever at the time, but I still got results, and the pictures are in the server. I'm sure like some of them have already seen how I looked like back when I was around 45, 50 kilogram body weight. I'm not a tall person, so even being at that body weight, I did look pretty okay-ish, I'd say. But honestly, all that was just from working in my room and just getting the basics of nutrition down, was just eat a lot more than what I was already eating because I was pretty skinny. And you get results from that. And you can totally get away with that with doing Ramadan or even whatever situation you're in right now, where a lot of the time teenagers come in saying that, oh, what to eat? I can't cook at home. My parents won't let me. Just eat whatever your parents are cooking. If you're coming from the skinny side, like I did, just eat whatever your parents are cooking. Eat a lot more of it. You will gain muscle, even if it's not the most amount of protein that you could get. You're still getting results out of whatever it is that your parents are already cooking already.
Definitely, but the thing is also what you mentioned, indeed, about the recommendation that we have. Again, this is the recommendation that has been put out by scientific evidence. Paper after paper, again, has pointed towards the fact that that is like the optimal range where you can get at. But again, as you say, if you are a complete beginner and you are not used to eating that much protein, I can tell you, it will get uncomfortable if you don't have the rest of your nutrition on point. You can't just raise the amount of protein that you take in and then expect your digestive system to work around the
Oh
fact that
yeah,
it is receiving a lot more protein than it is
a lot
used
of
to.
food is not going to be
It,
comfortable at first.
exactly. I mean, if you're used to 0.5, which is already quite okay, 0.5, 0.8 is like the daily recommendation from that. I think it was was it the FDA? I don't even know.
I think so. Yeah,
Whatever.
about 0.8 per pound body weight for normal
Oh,
people, I believe, or kilogram.
yeah, okay. Yeah. So, again, if you're taking in 0.5 grams a kilogram right now and you're upping that to 1.5, you're literally giving your body 3 times as much than it's used to. Be careful with that, especially if you don't up your fiber intake. What fiber does, and I've stretched the stories about fiber a lot of times now already in this community, but the thing is that there's still people out there that don't know. Fiber is one of the more important things that you can take in when you are taking in very complex uh, macronutrients like protein. Protein is a very complex macronutrient, reason being it is, when you take it in, like as it is yogurt, egg, whatever, it is a protein that is folded, okay? Or at least semi-folded because it's already kind of denatured in some way. An egg, for example, is kind of denatured already, but it is still twisted and a little bit folded. Now, this first needs to be completely stretched out by your body. You have enzymes that do this work. As soon as it gets denatured, it needs to be chopped down to bite-sized pieces in order for other enzymes to take up to it. There's cutting enzymes for this as well. So that's specific enzymes that need to start working on breaking down your protein, right? So there's not one enzyme with multiple tasks. There's always enzymes that have specialized tasks. There are enzymes that have multiple tasks, but in this case, let's just stick to the enzymes that have just one specific task. So you have the unfolding enzymes, we call them. We have the cutting enzymes, and then we have the enzymes that will cut your protein bits and pieces to even smaller bits and pieces, which is just the individual amino acids. And those individual amino acids will pass through your intestinal wall, get into your bloodstream, get into your transportation systems and whatever, to get moved to wherever it needs to go in your body, and that's where it just ends up. It gets taken away, it gets used again to get synthesized. Now, it's that little part of all that process in your intestines that kind of takes a while. And it's not that it takes super, super long, but it definitely takes longer than digesting sugar. And it definitely also takes longer than just digesting regular fatty acids that you get in, because uh, there's stuff for that as well to make it easily absorbable. In case of protein, it's not that easy, it's not that simple. This is also the reason why protein takes up a lot more energy to be digested, because it is a lengthy and energy requiring process to break it down. Now, if you don't take in fiber, that means that your bowel movement, so the movement of your intestines, will definitely be higher than ideal. If your bowel movement is higher, that means that the protein that you've taken in is going to move through your intestines quicker, which gives your enzymes less time to spend on the digestion, right? Now, I'm not saying that it is impossible to absorb all the protein if you don't take fiber in. Absolutely not, because your body is great at absorbing, digesting whatever it needs. It is an absolute survival machine. So don't think that it requires like specific amounts of whatever
Cough,
and
eat
able
puff,
to.
cough.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people out there that think that your body just has a limited amount of time. I mean, it does in theory, but you honestly you can't take in that much protein that you're going to overload the absorption capacity of your body. Like, no way. You would probably be hanging over the toilet quicker than it actually comes to that point, right?
Yep.
It's like protein intoxication. Imagine that happening.
It takes a
But
lot to achieve that, people. It takes a
yeah, I
lot.
mean, yeah, let's just not go there. That wouldn't be pretty. Um, but if you take in fiber, what you're doing is you are slowing down the bowel movement. You are providing your enzymes a lot longer time in order to get that protein digested. Now, what also happens is that a lot of these nutrients will be taken out of the disgusting mess that is in your intestines at that point. And as soon as it actually reaches the whole end stage of your intestines, which is where it will eventually be excreted from, right? Um, there's a lot less nutrients left if you take in a lot more fiber. That means that you can take in a lot more protein without having the absolutely notorious protein exhaust fumes. Let's just call them that way. You know,
Yeah,
they smell horrible. Everybody that has
everyone hates
upped
them.
their protein will probably know what they smell like. Everybody that has a spouse or a girlfriend, they will definitely know what it is for other people to be around you. But if you take in like a lot more fiber along with it, it is. I'm not saying that it will be completely gone, but it will be way less prevalent, and it adds to your comfort, right? Now, this story actually ended up way too long than I originally anticipated. But to get back to the point, if you only take 0.5 grams a kilogram in right now, right, and you want to optimize that, it might just be worth your while to slowly ramp it up, to slowly increase your protein intake. I know it's super easy for people to straightly jump into like 2 grams, 2.2 grams, 2.3 grams per kilogram of body weight just to be within that optimal range and maybe even have a little bit more than you would actually need. Now, you can we can argue if that is a smart decision because your intestinal flora requires some time to adjust to your new food pattern. I mean, they adjust really quickly, right? But not that quickly that they can suddenly process like 4 times more of the same nutrient that they have already been taken in.
Yeah,
So,
not to mention the timing and everything's all is completely different now. So
oh yeah,
yeah. Now, actually, something I wanted to add for the fiber thing is that most people don't probably don't know this, but fiber also helps a lot in fat digestion as well. So if you guys have ever been wondering if your fats are important for you or if you feel oily in your stools, then yes, having a lot more fiber does help with that digestion as well, alongside protein. And something, this is anecdotal, so take it with a piece of salt, a large piece of salt, not just grains. That personally, when I have a lot of protein, especially if I am using protein powder, just because I have some extras. Nowadays, I don't use protein powder. Too much of a hassle. I'm way too lazy to scoop protein powder every single time. But what I've learned, at least for me personally, for the more protein you take, it's a good idea to have at least one or two, maybe even three fiber-rich fruits. For example, let's say you're going up to 2.3 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. Probably a good idea to have at least 2, 3 apples alongside your daily eating habits of that. It should, at least for me, help deal with the digestion a bit. But it's a good starting point, a good ballpark to start from to start getting used to the whole protein digestion in your stomach. Now,
the great thing about apples,
yeah,
just to add to that, is their great combination of both water soluble and water insoluble
materials.
fibers, which
Yep,
is
yep.
like two different fiber types. And in apples and in other fruits as well, pears are a great example of that as well. Um, the balance between those two is actually quite good, quite optimal. Um, and for most people, apples are quite abundant and
Yeah.
are relatively cheap. So again, it's definitely a great suggestion. Absolutely.
I realized that recently. Well, not recently, but for the past several years, that having pears and apples alongside a high protein intake definitely help a lot, especially with passing your bowels and the toilet situation. It definitely helps a lot. So give it a try if you find that your protein intake has been disturbing your stomach for a bit. Now, moving on to like,
There's really nothing that can go wrong now, right?
yep,
I mean, it's apples.
and a lot of micronutrients as well alongside that.
Absolutely.
Now, moving on to well, not moving on directly, but more of a detour. Something else that we've been having a lot in the server recently is something that we both hate very viscerally. That is SARMS. Ani, would you be so kind to explain what SARMS is for the in
Yeah.
layman's term?
So SARMS is like the next excuse for people to get on stimulants, synthetic stimulants in this case. Everybody knows like steroids, testosterone, all that kinds of stuff. Now, SARMS is a little bit different in certain ways, which I'm not going to explain because it takes way too much time. And to be fair, I'm not 100% comfortable in that area either, so I don't want to provide false information. But what we can talk about is the fact that people seem to think that there are less risks attached to using SARMs than there are to having the regular old steroid injections or having just pure testosterone injected. Um, the thing about it is, it has become apparent that stimulants like this are very attractive to the youth, right? So when we're talking
Very.
youth, I'm talking 14 to 20, because I'm 29 myself and I like to count myself among the youth still. But yeah, it is. First and foremost, I absolutely understand that it is a very, very interesting thing to think about, right? What
Yeah.
it does is it improves your it 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 has a big effect on the time frame which it will take you to build a certain amount of muscle,
Oh,
right?
before we
Taking
continue, we should probably say that SARMS is an acronym, and that acronym is for Selective Antigen Receptors. I don't remember what M was. Do you remember what M was?
I
Modulators, was it?
I would say modulators, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, we didn't do any refresher on our info, guys. So
No, we are very freewheeling right
yeah,
now.
but basically, yeah, if you're wondering what SARMs are, it's an acronym for basically selective antigen receptors modulator. Probably don't remember. Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
just call it modulator.
Yeah, continue on, Ani.
Yeah, so I definitely get that people like to get the most results in the shortest amount of time. Honestly, that's what we're all looking for. Definitely.
Yep.
But understand that it is not without risks to start this, and it makes no sense whatsoever to get that done. Because in the world of today, people have lost patience. People have lost their capacity
Copy.
to wait for things
One
that
hundred
are
percent.
worth waiting for. And you can't, that's from my perspective at least, you are sacrificing a lot of your health if you would be getting into substances like this. And I'm not saying that it will immediately go to crap as soon as you get one injection done. No, it won't. It probably won't. That's what I should say. It probably won't.
If you're
Maybe it
lucky, it
does for
won't.
you.
In your
It
best interest, it
probably
won't.
won't. Yeah, but if you have multiple cycles after one another and you don't take care of yourself, which is really easy to do, right? Because most of the people that do use this stuff either know exactly what they're doing or they have a professional coach. If you are 15, then you don't have a professional coach. Or, I mean, usually you don't.
Hopefully, you
And
don't have a coach that's suggesting these things to you.
yeah, well, if you have a coach that is suggesting these things, then find a new coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is ridiculous. Honestly, if you are very close to the limits that your body can naturally achieve, and you are a professional athlete, then it might be worth your while. I'm just saying it might be worth your while, but it's up to you to decide. But if you are a pro athlete, you're probably not a teen anymore, in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
Caveat from this, guys, honestly, I know that there's a lot of talk about this in the fitness community, and I know that there's idiots on YouTube, on TikTok, on whatever platform you're on the most, that claim that this shit is safe. It isn't. It plain old isn't. It hasn't been proven to be safe. It hasn't been proven to have acceptable side effects. It is unthinkable, for all I know at least, that it has a significantly lower risk than the traditional stimulants out there. I would steer clear from it until you can make a proper decision for yourself later on in your fitness career. Do I really need this stuff? And I can tell you, it probably won't be necessary for you because you're not a pro athlete. You just want to look good, right? You just want to be very strong. I definitely understand that. But you don't need to be as strong as guys like Thor, Eddie Hall. I mean,
And you probably
these
won't.
dudes are literally on the top they are the summit, really. So
Yeah. And you probably
don't
won't
aim
even
for
be
that
as strong as
straight
them,
away.
even if you did take everything under the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Because it still comes down to genetics. It comes down to frame, right? How are you built? You will not be able to influence that.
Yep.
If your genetics tell you you will be 1 meters 65, then trust me, you will not be 1 meter 95.
You can not saying that you shouldn't be hopeful, but like accept reality, guys. Reality is reality. You can't turn away from it. You gotta accept it and be happy with it. It's not that bad to not be the strongest man in the world. Nothing comes out of it.
To be honest, I probably wouldn't want to be the strongest man in the world, to be fair, because it comes with a lot of other things that you need to take care of. I mean, only look at the amount. I mean, for some people, it might be a dream, like the amount of food that these guys have to take in to actually keep maintaining everything. I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh
crap, I wouldn't be able to stomach that. No. And just imagine being the strongest man in the world and then getting into Ramadan.
yeah. You
Oh,
have that,
man.
and then you have
Oh,
like all the attention on you all the time. Certain expectations. Like imagine you're Thor and like what was it? I think it was the overhead press, the one arm dumbbell overhead press, and he didn't perform as people had hoped, and you just get shit on just for not. Yeah, you're pressing like 300 pounds, 400 pounds, maybe overhead with one arm, and you press 20 pounds less to get number one, and people shit on you for like, oh, dude, like come on, he's still pressing like 400 pounds overhead with one arm. That's still pretty freaking strong, guys. Come on.
it is always a matter of perspective.
Yeah. Well,
Everything is relative. And if those guys are like super, super strong, then you expect super strong stuff from them. And yeah, I mean, if I would be trying that, literally my skull would be crushed, without a doubt, in a split second.
yeah. Now, I think it's my turn for the SARMS, and since I've been dealing with this a lot in the servers recently, I just had like several non-coordinated messages for this. First of all, teenagers. We've been teenagers ourselves, right, Annie? We've been there. And
Yeah,
as former teenagers, we understand. When you're a teen, you feel invincible. You feel like the world is against you for whatever reason and you are going to dominate it for whatever reason. And you come up with the most ridiculous excuses to justify your actions. Like somehow in your head, your mental gymnastics says that you're right and everyone else is wrong. Yeah, get rid of that. That's not the case 99% of the time, especially when you're talking or arguing or debating as adults who clearly know a lot more better than you, have been through whatever it is you're going through, or know a lot better than you because it's their field. Secondly, Psalms. Yes, like Annie said, it is tempting, like get results really fast, whatever, blah blah blah. But first of all, the gains that you're making, they're not unnatural gains. Well, they are because you're not natural anymore. But the gains that you're making are the same exact gains you would have made naturally had you just been a tad bit more patient. Borrowing the words from Dr. Mike Israel, why are you taking shit that's not as effective as the real shit just to get the same shit side effects that you're gonna get from taking shit that actually does work? If you're gonna go enhance, you might as well take the stuff that's actually going to like exponentially increase your muscle gains, your strength gains on the dot. Like you know this shit is definitely going to be effective. but you also know the side effects it comes with. Now you're just taking SARMs where these things aren't even clear whether or not they're as effective as actual steroids, but we do know the side effects are definitely just as worse, if not even more severe than actual steroids, since we don't even know the long-term effects of these things. So why bother? And another huge thing that really triggers me is that a lot of the times, especially like Ani said, there are only two types of people who go enhance. The people who know absolutely everything that they're doing, they 100% know the dosages, the cycles, and they know exactly when, where, how, and everything under the sun about them. They know what to do and they know how to do it correctly. Then there's the other type of people, the more popular ones, who have absolutely no clue what they're doing but just hop on anyways. You likely fall into this second category, and I can tell you, don't fall into that second category. Like, man, how do I explain this? In a
It's
way that,
difficult.
hmm?
It is difficult. I definitely get it. I know what you're wanting to. I know what you're targeting, where you want to end up, but it is.
You guys aren't even
It is.
optimizing it. Like
Yeah.
you're taking Psalms, but then you're also sleeping like 3 hours a day because you go to bed at like 4 a.m. talking to a girl who's not even going to go out with you. Your nutrition is horrendous because you don't know how to eat properly, like an actual adult who knows how to eat properly towards their goals. Let alone your training. Your training is like half-assed. You do half-ass reps. You train like you come up with this weird ass program of body splits. Nothing is optimal, and then you're only making huge gains because one, you're a beginner, and two, you're enhanced. But none of that is going to carry you as far as you think it is. If had you just learned how to train properly, had you learned how to have proper nutrition towards your goals, and had you learned to just be patient and make the same natty gains that you would have made had you just been a bit patient. If you're gonna make unnatural gains, then at least make those gains actual gains that you would never have made if you were natural. Like, please, it's not worth it, kids. Trust us, it is not worth it. And we know people who are enhanced, but these people know what they're doing, and they've earned the right to make those unnatural gains because they put in the hard work and the time to completely milk out their natural gains. Anything you want to add,
They
Ani?
know. They know how to make the most of the cycle that they are on that point. What you will see if somebody is enhanced, what they will do is they will train as the hardest they ever had. They will be wary of their nutrition the most that they've ever been while they are on a cycle because they know that there's risks attached to it. So they want to make sure to extract as much potential out of that cycle that they can. If you are a beginner and you are like 15, 16, and you're just getting into the gym, then you absolutely don't have the knowledge, the technique, you
Experience?
just don't have the capacity to make the most out of that cycle to justify the risks that are attached to it. So that is indeed I think, in my opinion, the core reason why you as a beginner, why you as a teen should never ever be even considering hopping on stimulants like we have been talking about just now.
Yeah, besides, you guys are teenagers. You're beginners, so you're gonna make massive natty beginner gains. And you're teenagers. You're literally going through puberty, which is basically being enhanced naturally, without without any side effects except for maybe acne and social anxiety, because you're a teenager and you're going through puberty and the hormones are all acting up. But come on, you can make tons of gains as teenagers. Just look at tons of natural teens out there who are actual competitors and they've been making tons of great gains.
We
But
have people in the server that look
oh,
absolutely fantastic.
oh yeah,
Look
talk
at
about the
like
server itself.
1780. I mean, come on.
Yeah, like honestly, speaking of the server and the members, personally, I feel like a proud father in a way, or like a proud big brother, because you were there, right, Ani? Like we know these kids who came into the server just like a year or even under a year ago, who didn't know what they were doing. Then we just taught them like the right things to learn and the right sources to learn from. And then a few months later, we have like some of these kids who are like 15, 16 pulling 200 sumo at like 70 kilogram, 80 kilogram body weight, and that's not
Hmm.
like, come on, that's isn't that amazing and natural too? Like, are you not happy making gains like that?
It's the way it should be.
Yeah, and it's
It
encouraging.
definitely is the way it should be. I mean, it shows that it is 100% possible to achieve great results in a relatively short amount of time, by just adjusting your lifestyle, adjusting the things you eat, and adjusting the way you train. And if that is not enough for you, then, I think you should go find another hobby,
Yeah, because
because this stuff takes time.
and you're never gonna be satisfied either, even if you go and have.
Exactly.
Speaking of goals and realism, if we take let's say we take the kids in the server, at least the regulars, and we take the time frame that they've trained, let's say Simple or Ice or the other Ice, the Swedish Ice, or even YPN or like some of the other members of the server. I'm sure if you're watching this, you're from the server, you know who they are. They've been in this at the very least a year to a year and a half in the server, and they've a lot of them have gone from, let's say on average, a 3 plate deadlift to a 4 5 plate deadlift to benching 2 plates or a bit under 2 plates and squatting around 3 to 4 plates within, let's say, a year to a year and a half time frame. Plus minus the learning phase of like learning proper programming, learning dieting, getting the diet down, and of course learning technique and all. But I think having as a beginner and especially as a teenager, you could make those gains even faster. Honestly, like let's say my cousin, he's a twig. He used to be a twig at least, but since I've been training for quite a long time amongst my family, and he just so recently got into training. Uh, well, recently I say the time I met him, it was he's been training for about 4 months. So his older brother, who used to live with me at my house, obviously a lot of the time when he was living with us was when I started learning about training, nutrition, and everything. So a lot of the stuff that I learned passed on to him as well. Not everything, but the fundamentals were there. So when his younger brother, who's also my cousin, got into training, he just taught him the basics. And when I mean basics, I do mean absolute basics. He just taught him basic progression, training intensity, and just nutrition, and not even counting calories. It was just eat a lot. That's all. Basically, eat whatever it is you're eating, eat more of it until you start gaining weight. And within 4 months, this cousin of mine gained 16 kilograms of weight. Although his legs aren't as big as they should because they don't have a proper gym to do squats at, the kid went from being a skinny twig, like actual skinny twig, to being 16 kilograms heavier, being what most people would say jacked, at least for amongst teenagers, and went from not being able to do pull-ups to being able to do, at best when he was with me, we decided to test this one rep max pull-up, and he did 30 kilograms for one rep max at about 65, 66 kilogram body weight, which is still pretty skinny for his height, but he has been building muscle. And like come on guys, for 4 months being able to go from a twig to jack to relatively jack and having a one rep max pull up of 30 kilograms added is pretty good. Like honestly, seriously, for 4 months of training and not even truly optimal training, that is still pretty solid. And you can achieve that completely naturally. You just need to do things correctly for those 4 months, give or take correctly for 4 months. And that's just for 4 months. Imagine 6, 8 months, or yeah, 6, 8 months to a full year. Imagine how much you could change in your physique, in your strength, and and arguably more importantly, your self confidence in yourself in that time frame.
Absolutely. I guess that's the takeaway. Be patient. Be patient and give yourself the time. The have the balls basically to give yourself the time to adjust to whatever you're trying to achieve, and results will come running for you quicker than you might expect.
Honestly, they'll come so fast you won't even remember how you look like anymore past that.
Definitely.
But something about expectations is definitely social media. I think we can make this as a recommendation. I'm not sure, but you should probably cut out social media, or at least cut the amount of time that you're on social media. or at the very least, whatever you're watching that's spouting this BS about fitness, like detoxifications, results, SARMS, physique, strength, you should probably cut that out indefinitely, if not at least half of it or more than half. Wouldn't you agree?
I think that social media has its place in the regular daily routine of teens and people in general.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do think we should recommend is that people should be more critical
Ah, yes,
of
critical.
um, the actual content. There you go. That's the word. The content that they're watching and the information that they're taking in, and it can be very hard to distinguish between what is crappy advice and what is actually good advice. Now, general rule of thumb: if you find fitness advice on TikTok, ignore it. If you can find the same advice in, for example, YouTube videos by Picturefit, Jeff Nippard, Lane Norton, you name them, right? The people that actually know what they're talking about. If that same advice is found there as well, in that case you can trust it. If there's if there's nothing to be found about it, then ignore it. Absolutely ignore it. If you have videos that show like I did this in just 2 weeks and you see like this mad difference that almost looks too good to be true, if it looks too good to be true, it very likely is too good to be true. And I know that this is a very cliche thing to say, but it has proven time and time again that it is the case. So if you are on social media and you do like that one influencer that looks absolutely fantastic and whatever, and they're saying like, yeah, just do this little thing and then you will suddenly blow up and whatever, that is crap. Honestly, there is no such thing as suddenly blowing up. There's no such thing as accidentally becoming too big, right? That is also one of those
Oh,
things
we could
that
only
we hear
wish.
a lot. Like, oh yeah, but I don't want to accidentally get too large. I'm just like, yeah, as if you're going to wake up at some point and you're suddenly 10 kilograms heavier. That is not how biology works. That is not how biology has ever worked, and it is also not how it will ever work.
If we
So
were
don't
that
be afraid.
volatile, we would not be able to survive at all.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, this is an interesting, good segue. When it comes to volatility, something that has been popping up in discussions recently is injuries and pain. So, how have you been keeping up with the science and data on regards to injuries and pain, Ani? Just to so we know like where to start off
I have a lot of textbooks about injuries, pain, muscle restoration, and whatever, but I have not even gotten close to being able to read them. So I really should.
with.
But yeah, I mean, life's been very, very busy. Injuries and pain are a really difficult thing. The reason why is because the origin from pain can be a lot of things. Um, and what I tend to hear from a lot of people is that they have joint pain, for example. Um, but I always wonder, how can you tell that it is joint pain? Do you actually feel the joint? Or do you feel ligaments? Do you feel tendon? Do you feel the muscle itself, you know? I mean, how do you know that it's your joint? I mean, if it is your joint, then that is serious stuff, and you really should get it looked at. You should get it looked at, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
joints are really important things for your day-to-day movement. You might not be very conscious about that, but just let me make you uncomfortable. Every single motion that you make with your limbs, be it your fingers, be it your wrist turning, be it your elbow going up and down, be it your shoulders going back and forth, your legs, right, walking, that is all joints, right? You are able to move your body because of joints, and of course because there's muscles attached to actually make them move. But whatever. If you wouldn't have those joints, you would just be, yeah, you'd be a plank, kind of, and you would not be able to move yourself. So joints have, I think, it is one of the most important parts of your general motor system of your body. of course, along with muscles to actually move the stuff. Um, but joint health is a very serious thing. And if you suspect it is joint pain, get it looked at instantly. Don't think, oh, it'll pass. It'll pass. No, honestly. If it is joint pain, get it looked at because it is difficult to understand that your bones and joints they follow along slower than your tendon and muscle tend to follow along. So you might be able to push and pull a lot more in a shorter amount of time. That doesn't mean that your your bones are being able to keep up with whatever you can lift. So your muscles will adapt a lot quicker than your bones will. So a lot of people that sustain injuries because of lifting, it usually comes from going too fast, trying to progress too fast, having a crappy form, for example, is also one of those typical things that we see a lot. So
This is going to be a great discussion topic because there's actually been a lot of new data in regards to injuries and pain, causations, and correlations. But you can finish first, and then I can bring up to date on the current data.
yeah, that's fine. The thing is also that I'm kind of running out of time, so we should be wrapping this up in a bit. Um, but when it comes to if you know that you are that you have longer lasting pain after your sessions and that keeps increasing, for me that is a sign that something's going on there, right?
Yep.
It's not a bad thing to feel sore after a training. It's also not a bad thing to not feel sore after a training because feeling sore is not exactly a great way to tell if you have had a good workout, yes or no, if it was effective, yes or no, because it depends on a lot of factors,
Hmm.
how sore you will get. But if you have pain and be able, that is I think one of the most important things I can tell you, be able to distinguish soreness from pain. Because soreness is just a nagging, nasty feeling. You're just like, ugh, I trained and I feel sore now and whatever, and everything I do, it feels uncomfortable. If you have pain, then a specific thing, a specific movement that you make actually causes stinging senses, like
Or
a
dull
sense of
pain.
stinging through. It just makes it near impossible to do a certain movement, right? That is pain. Soreness is not pain. Be able to distinguish that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, but to cut it short, about the form thing, actually, so what the current data has shown us is that form is actually not indicative of pain at all. However, the reason why we would recommend good form, or at least there is a standard of good form, is two things: efficiency and general comfort. Let's say you're doing curls on a straight bar versus an easy bar, and you try doing it on a straight bar, your wrists don't feel that comfortable. That is just your own design. It just doesn't suit you. And then you go to an easy curl bar, and it suits you just fine. It doesn't annoy your wrist. You get a good bicep pump. Yeah, in cases like that, yes, certain form may not be comfortable for you, but it's not exactly pain causing unless you start pushing it. Now, for efficiency's sakes, for those of you who do know, there are some people out there with very terrible form, let's say on deadlift, like Worm Chat. He has probably one of the worst, aesthetically worst pleasing deadlift forms on the internet, but the guy still pulls 250, 260, 270 kilograms because he's built like he has slowly built his strength up with that particular form with no injuries, by the way. So yes, your body is extremely resilient and knows how to build up to load. The problem is that a lot of people is that certain form, let's say if you deadlift a lot with your lower back, as i.e. incorrect form, quote unquote incorrect form, your lower back has a very limited capacity to adapt over time. I wouldn't say limited over time, but the amount of times that you can strain it per bout of exercise is going to be a lot less generally than, let's say, if you had a more efficient deadlift form, conventional deadlift form, where you're able to use your entire posterior chain. You can use your quads, you can use your legs as they should be, your back, everything. So, but if you do properly manage load and fatigue, despite a lower back intensive deadlift form, you can still adapt perfectly fine and still get really strong on deadlifts with that form, albeit it is mechanically less efficient. You can adapt to it. You just need to know that the way that you should manage the load for that is going to be completely different than, say, if your form was a lot more efficient. Same thing with bench press, same thing with squat. If your squat is really inefficient and it turns into a good morning squat, you can still get really strong with a good morning squat, even though it's not as efficient because you're not using your legs as you should be. But the way that you need to manage the bouts of exercise, your intensity, your volume is going to be albeit different than if your form was a lot more efficient. Hence why people can get injured in certain form in certain quote unquote bad forms. It's because they're trying to manage the load as if their form was more efficient mechanically wise. And as Ani said before, if you need to understand the difference between soreness and pain, usually if it is joint pain or pain where it shouldn't be, the sensations are definitely going to be different. It'll either be a really sharp pain on certain movements. Say if you have shoulder pain and you raise your arm towards your side and you start feeling pain there, or in certain movements where you're trying to press overhead and you just feel pain in your shoulders, that's definitely pain that should not be there. And it will probably be sharp. And another type of pain is dull pain. Dull pain is, well, it feels dull, but it feels localized. Now, this might not be straightforward, but in medical terms, localized just means that the pain is in that area and it doesn't spread out to any other parts of the body. So, if you are suspecting that you're having those kind of pains, definitely see a professional. We don't always recommend seeing a doctor because doctors are general practitioners, general doctors. They aren't always specialized in certain sports or certain aspects of medical health, like a physiotherapist would be or an orthopedic would be. But seeing your general doctor and maybe having them refer you to someone who's more uh, specialized in the field that you're talking about. Let's say because you're an athlete and you want someone who's more versatile or well versed in athletic injuries, then definitely get your doctor to refer you to such a professional. Anything else? One more thing to add is that don't placebo yourself or nocebo yourself. Remember, I this is a very interesting study, by the way. Some studies have actually shown that the way you perceive yourself and the way you perceive your injury or your condition can massively affect your ability to heal or not heal from that condition, which is very interesting. It shows you how strong the power of the mind can be. But if you're the type who gets extremely down and depressed because of a certain injury or certain conditions, the likelihood of you recovering from that is very likely that it's going to take you a lot longer and it's going to be a lot harder for you to recover from it than, say, someone who's a lot more positive, who's like, damn, I snapped my leg squatting 400 kilograms. I'm going to be in the hospital for like 3 months. But then, like, after that, I'm going to bounce right back it. Like, yeah, people like that are probably the people who are going to reach far in life because they just bounce back from whatever life throws at them. And they can get there just through sheer will and effort alone. And positivity. If you don't think you can do it, you're probably not going to do it. If you don't think that you're going to recover well or you're not going to recover anytime soon, you probably won't. So, be a bit more positive.
Absolutely. I guess that kind of wraps up what we wanted to speak about.
Oh, yeah. I think that's good enough. Any
It,
shout
it,
outs? I guess we should shout out the main guy here in the middle of the screen, Picturefit. Please join the Picturefit Discord community on the screen right here. You can see his other socials, like his Twitter. He doesn't tweet as much, so tweet to him and tell him to tweet more. YouTube videos, he's finally posting more YouTube videos again, and Instagram. So remember to follow him on these socials. Picturefit, man, the one and only. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here now. So
No, that
Massive,
is definitely true.
yeah, massive
Absolutely.
thanks to
That
the
is.
guy. Anything else you want to say, Annie? Like maybe any plans or anything you want to say to the community or to Picturefit or anything?
Yeah, well, I think that there's just a general thing that people tend to forget. Have fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. Enjoy your journey,
Have
guys.
fun in what you do. Yeah, that very important as well. People always talk about need to be efficient, need to do this, need to do that. No,
Blah
yeah,
blah blah.
well, maybe you do, but don't forget to have fun in the process because it is a fun process.
And a learning process, dude. Don't expect to get things right the first time out. No one does that.
Absolutely.
I think we do have one last thing to say, and that's the trademark catchphrase of Picturefit. Do you know what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah, I do. I
Okay,
do.
let's say it
Yeah.
together in I think okay, 3, 2, 1.
It
Get your
depends.
oh
That is the
okay
one, man.
okay
It
okay
is. It
we totally
depends.
got it wrong. Okay, yes, Annie is right. It depends. This is biology. This is fitness. It depends a lot on a lot of things. So it'll always depend. The
There you
other one
go.
that
And do get your protein without a
yeah,
doubt.
and get your protein without a doubt. But even if you don't get your protein, you can still probably make gains as long as you're getting some protein in, like we said earlier.
Chica. There you go.
It depends. Well, that's the end of episode 2 of the podcast. We do not know when episode 3 will pop up. Trust us, we do not plan these things ahead of time, but or plan them at all, honestly. And we might have different people on for episode 3, so look forward to that. And I think that's it. Bye bye, and thank you for
Absolutely.
listening.
Ciao, people.
Ciao.